on the way to the ring, from Chicago, Illinois, Gregory.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, IGN.com proudly brings to you its WWE SmackDown video review, live with two-time BYWF champ, Gruesome Greggy! Hey everybody, it's Greg from the IGN PlayStation team, here to talk to you about WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. As usual, the annual franchise is back, and better than ever to an extent. It's engaging, fun to play, but it's not the leap forward most were probably expecting. What is good in this game? Relatively a lot, starting with a ton of matches. There's Buried Alive, First Blood, Hardcore, Hell in a Cell, Iron Man, Ladder, Table, TLC, Steel Cage, Parking Lot Brawl, Money in the Bank, and making its franchise debut, ECW Extreme Rules. The ECW Extreme Rules match is hands down my favorite. Being an ECW hardcore fan from the way back, this really made me feel like I was playing in the old Philly Arena or Bingo Hall. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's no DQ, no ring out, but not falls count anywhere. So you get to run all around the arena, smacking into each other with all sorts of chairs, barbed wire, 2x4s, tables, whatever you can dig out. But there's a lot of cool tweaks that make this a step beyond the hardcore match.
It's never a good thing when your opponent's got you by the barricade.
To begin with, now when you reach underneath the ring, a weapon wheel will pop up, letting you actually choose what you're going to pull out. So you don't have to worry about going underneath the ring and coming back with some lame sledgehammer. Now you can go and grab the 2x4 or grab the chair. Really capturing that ECW vibe comes down to the fans in the front row as well. As you battle along the barricade, they're going to hold out weapons for you to use in your match. It might be a cup of water or some other alcoholic beverage. It might be a sign, it might be a guitar, or it might be a crutch, just like you used to see in the old days. So you ultimate control with your opponent, drag him to the side there, and you'll start interacting with that object. Maybe you'll toss Tommy Dreamer over the barricade, grab the crutch from some little crippled kid, and nail it over his head. So I just talked a little bit about Ultimate Control grapples. They're back, but they're different than how they used to be. They're more refined. No longer do you really have to click R3 to use these things and make them work and hold R1 and have this really complicated system. Now what you do is just swing the right stick, no matter which way you want to go, to pull off a special grapple move. And then if you want to get into a strong grapple, you hold R1, grab the stick again, and do something special there, whether this be your really ultimate control of grabbing the guy in a collar and elbow and dragging him to the barricade, or holding him up into a submission, or just any other kind of move you want, where you lift him off the ground and then get to do something special with him. But the really big change for this year is fighting styles. Now every superstar has 2 of 8 fighting styles, stuff like Brawler, Technical, Powerhouse, and these give you special primary and secondary abilities. Let's look at Jeff Hardy. He's a high flyer, so one of his primary abilities is the possum pin. If Jeff's got a stored finisher, he can lay on the ground and hold down R1 and triangle. When the opponent comes over to try to do a move to him, Jeff springs back to life, rolls him up in a pin, maybe gets a quick 3 count. Let's look at Shawn Michaels, a showman. He can steal finishers. Now I know what you're saying, Greg, you've been able to steal finishers for years. That's not news. We don't trust you anymore. We hate you. Die. But it doesn't have to be like that, fans. See, fighting styles are taking some of the things we loved and giving them specific characters through their abilities. That might not sound cool, but it really opens up the game to making players play the way they should. Perfect example in SmackDown vs. Raw 2008, Randy Orton. He is a primary dirty character. You know, you've seen the game. Look at Cyber Sunday. He just elbowed Shawn Michaels in the nuts for no reason. Now in the past, everybody elbows everybody in the nuts. That's just how the game's played. But now dirty players can do things people like Matt Hardy could only dream about. For instance, if you're dirty like Randy Orton, you can get behind the ref, shove him into your opponent, knock the ref out, do whatever you want, and you get momentum for that. All these little things are things we've seen before in the game, but now that they're into specific people and you see that specific person doing them, it really makes you that much more into the match. It really makes it seem real. But sadly, there are a lot of old animations in this game, or at least things that look like old animations.
Come on now, JR. A man doesn't know what true happiness is until he's married.
This same thing can be said for commentary, clipping problems, and poor collision detection. You can make the argument that Madden's the same every year, and same wrestling moves should look the same year to year, but a lot of times when you play this game, it just feels too similar to things we've seen in the past, especially when we're going to look at General Manager mode and Create a Wrestler. Create a Wrestler mode in 2008 is almost exactly what we saw in 2007. You're seeing a lot of the same options, a lot of the same option numbers, and at times it actually seems dumbed down a bit. In previous years, you know, you could put glasses on somebody and make them black so they look normal, but when I was making my boss and overlord of IGN, Jeremy Dunham, I really couldn't give him normal looking black rimmed glasses. I had to give him the Dudley Boys glasses, and obviously that just looked odd. Now I've already touched on General Manager mode being a lot like last year, but there's a big change. There's a new thing called 24/7 mode, which incorporates last year's season and general manager mode into one overarching deal. What happens is you begin the mode and select if you want to be a general manager or you want to be a superstar. Choose general manager and you go in just like you did in past years and get to choose between Raw or SmackDown, except now you can be ECW. But beyond that, I mean, everything's the same. You go in, draft your rosters, choose your champions, hire storyline writers, all the jazz you'd expect while managing injuries, making sure everybody's happy, and trying to make some money. Now, if you choose to be a superstar, it's a completely different ballgame. You'll pick a guy and then you have to decide if you want to use his current overall or his 24/7 overall. See, if you're doing 24/7, they want to play it a lot like an RPG. So you can choose Triple H and have some huge overall score of like, 102 or whatever he's rated. Or you could go for the 24/7 mode and start with a 36 and have to work up your attributes through things like training exercises that make you stronger, faster, better with the fans, or events, which are like autograph sessions, movie appearances. What you get out of these is obviously the bump in your statistics, but you also get fans, money, and you have to balance all that, the positives, with some negatives, such as fatigue and losing money to pay for those skill training sessions. And there's the rub, folks, injuries. If you remember from last year's mode, all the time you had to deal with not working your superstars too hard, because if you did, what happened? They got injured, you didn't have them for pay-per-views, your fans ran away, everybody cried, and Vince fired you. They brought injuries over to the single-player part of 24/7, and I really think it does not work at all. It's a huge drawback to the game. See, it sounds good on paper, right? However, what happens this time is I get an email from my nurse saying I need to take 7 weeks off. I'm like, no big deal. 7 weeks to Matt Hardy, that's nothing. We'll go down to Cameron, North Carolina, have some fun, right? Wrong. You go to any of your options, and you won't be able to find an option to take 7 weeks off. You have to wrestle through the pain. You have to keep going back into these matches with your back horribly injured. It means you enter, and you already have a horrible limb damage in your back. It really takes all the fun out of why I'd want to play this. Why do I want to go into matches hurt? You can simulate it, but it really shouldn't have to be like that. And if all that wasn't bad enough, nothing changes on the calendar year to year. Every year the calendar says it's 2008. Every year WrestleMania is in Detroit. It's very, very cut and dry and very boring. Outside of 24/7 mode is Hall of Fame. There's 12 challenges to go through and relive some classic WWE moments. We didn't get to try multiplayer with the PS3, but we did get online with our 360, and it seemed to run really, really smooth and fun. Only one match crashed, and it was just one of those things that happens. But all the big types of games were there. There's player rankings, leaderboards. It really seems like it's going to be a good year. As far as system differences, the big problem is there's no voice on PS3, and 360 gets to import music for created wrestlers. I know it's a huge deal, and that's really going to drive some people away. Sony, you're not completely left out in the cold. You get to hold down R2 during entrances and have a first-person mode. Yeah. On the graphics side, I've played both these games extensively, and I have to say there's really not that big of a difference. 360 did seem to be more colorful, but I actually thought it maybe took away from the realism. The washed-out colors on the mat and people wrestling on PS3 looked a bit more real to me, but either way, you're going to be happy as far as how it looks. So what are we left with? Well, SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 is fun. There's no doubt about it. I've been playing this game for probably 3.5 months now, and I cannot wait for you guys to get it so I can play you online. Xbox 360 online, of course. But it's really the same game we've been playing for years and years and years now. Is that bad? Who's to say? I mean, we enjoy it, right? You're going to buy it every year no matter what, but it's time for this franchise to get an overhaul. It's time for them really to think outside the box. But until they do that, 2008's a good game, and you should definitely pick it up if you're a SmackDown fan. For the full written review and more of my ramblings, check out IGN.com.
Has it all. A great look, fantastic. His opponent might not have enough left to kick out.